I thought I would change it up this time for multiple reasons. One being, I don't have enough room on my phone or my tablet. I could probably do some shit with my other technology, but I don't really feel like it. So this live streaming was the best option. Hello. I am not going to be interacting with anyone more than likely. I don't even really feel like doing a Q&A later when I'm done actually talking because I don't feel like it. Maybe I'll change my mind during, but we'll see. This is a live stream at the moment, but I more want it to be a video on my channel, okay? That just happened to have been a live stream. It does actually bother me when people like start a live stream and then they like spend like 15 goddamn minutes saying hi to people, and I'm like, wow, that's enough. Okay, but I've said enough now because it's already 1 minute in. Okay, so I saw Oppenheimer yesterday with some friends, and it was really great. And then, of course, later on we saw Barbie, but I'm not really going to be talking about Barbie that much in this video. What I do want to talk about is my feelings on it, my thoughts on it. What I first want to say though is I came up with a list of 5 things that makes a movie good to me, in my judgment. Okay, and those things are: one, we want the main character to succeed. The main character, I might call main character MC, which is main character. Main character is likable, interesting, so that has to be established. 2 is we enjoy the ride. Watching the MC do X, Y, and Z. The actions of MC are relatable. And then 3 is satisfying character arc for MC, meaning, I know not everyone knows this, but a character arc is like how your character changes within the time allotment, and sometimes that's within, the time in a movie or the time over like an entire season. So that's a character arc. So satisfying character arc for main character, we go from part A all the way through Z and then often back to part A. And then 4 is an audible and a visual feast. Okay, so the visuals do actually matter a lot of the time, and that is what we like to watch, what we want to watch. And then 5 is a worthwhile communal experience for the audience of the film. All right, and I understand that the audience at something like a premiere versus the audience like us common folk experience, like just at a regular theater, are completely different. I think that's just something to keep in mind. So I will reiterate. 1, we want the main character to succeed. 2, we enjoy the ride. Watching the main character do their adventure. 3, the main character or characters have satisfying character arcs. And 4, it's an audible and visual feast. And 5, it was a worthwhile communal experience. Okay, so I'm actually going to start with the previews because that is in fact a part of the movie-going experience, is the previews. And y'all know I have some feelings about those. Okay, so I'm just going to read to you what the previews were in front of Christopher Nolan's biopic about J. Robert Oppenheimer, who created the atomic bomb. This is a very serious movie. This is a very serious tone, very serious subject matter. People had very high expectations for it, okay? Have very high expectations for it. Yet, the commercials, the previews we saw before this movie were the Meg 2 about a giant shark, a guy fighting a giant shark, Jason Statham fighting a giant shark. 2, there's some new fucking Exorcist movie, who cares? 3, I don't know if 3 and 4 are kind of tied for the worst one, but 3 was this one called Gran Turismo, which looked like the shittiest action movie ever about some dumb little boy trying to. Okay, he's not a dumb little boy. About some aspiring race car driver in England trying to be a race car driver, even though all he ever did was play video games about it before, but he's gonna try to do it for real. Okay, and then we had the new Haunted Mansion movie, all of which, the jokes in it were not laughed at because they weren't funny, and usually they actually kind of save the jokes. They save the funny jokes for the trailer specifically, and none of these jokes are funny, so it's also something to consider. Okay, and then the final one that actually I think is the only one that was acceptable to be a preview for Oppenheimer was this one called The Holdovers, which is, a coming of age movie with Paul Giamatti and some other 30-year-old pretending he's in high school. And it just looked like exactly what it sounds like, but I don't know why people aren't taking the previews a little bit more seriously, because like all the friends that I saw this with, as soon as pretty much all these trailers came on, but especially the giant shark one and especially Gran Turismo, we were like, are you for real right now? You're really gonna show this horse shit in front of a Christopher Nolan movie? Is that a good idea? And the answer is that it's not. And when you have such, I don't know what, I'm trying to think of a descriptive word to describe those trailers. When you have such a horrendous movie that clashes in tone and action and everything so extremely with the actual feature, that really takes away from the experience. And I think it's pretty embarrassing that movie studios have yet to catch on to that fact. Honestly, I didn't like Oppenheimer. I was not feeling it. I was very bored. I thought it was very, very extensive to the point of it being rather ridiculous. I thought it was Christopher Nolan's worst work so far. Okay, and I've seen Panic Room. All right, but Panic Room was more specific to the age that it was. It's exactly what you would expect from a movie of that genre. But yeah, I really do think that this is his worst work so far that I've seen. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was a good movie. And I'll tell you why. Okay, I have a lot of reasons why. I got all my notes here, and we gonna have a time. Okay, we gonna have a time. All right, so most of the movie was a bunch of guys sitting in rooms talking for 3 whole hours, and I am not exaggerating. You can go, feel free to watch the movie and see for yourself. And that doesn't really sound exciting, doesn't? That's because it isn't. There could have been a lot of action with the conception of the bomb, with the creation of the bomb and all the equations and all the work and everything that had to go into making the bomb. There could have been a lot of visual representation there. There could have been a lot of like actually cool CGI, showing us how the bomb was created. Didn't get any of that though. So that was that was a problem. There just could have been more visual effects, and there were a few kind of to start, but they weren't really clear, and they were more like things that Oppenheimer was imagining in his mind, and they were super, super brief. So that was a mistake. Okay. There was only about 1 or 2 scenes with very like heavy, like detailed academic talk of how they were like equations and just really technical ways that they were going to talk about making the bomb. And it was established that Oppenheimer kind of had this team early on of very brilliant men who were, putting the work in to create the bomb, to help him create the bomb, because he was the ringleader of all of that, right? And there was one fucking scene, we got one scene literally, where they were doing the academic talk, and it almost got to the point where it was like too complicated, but then I was like, too complicated for the average layperson to understand what was going on. And then right at that second when they were about to cross that threshold, the scene ended basically. And I was like, oh shit, I would have liked to have seen that. I really would have liked to have seen actual, like, dialogue about that, even if people don't understand it at all. You know, that would have been really interesting, but of course that wasn't in there. Oh, they also didn't talk about, like, the physics of dropping it. That was like never. That was literally never discussed, ever, 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 ever. I mean, they showed them like setting it up, but like, yes, yes, Oppenheimer was a nuclear physicist, and he likely would have had played a part in the actual physical, like, dropping of it, but they would have had other, because he's the one who created the bomb, right? He physically helped to create the bomb. Okay? I forgot something, but I can get it. And so I don't know if him creating the bomb and the bomb being physically dropped would have been slightly different. They probably would have had to have had additional scientists on the team about that, but it wasn't in there, obviously. Okay. There was very little representation of the bomb being constructed. They did show it a little bit. They did show them like physically putting the bomb together, but it was only for a few seconds at a time. And actually, I am pretty confident that the construction, the piecing together of the bomb that was in the trailer was not in the movie at all. So there's that. I forgot to say that this contains spoilers. So if you guys are not interested in getting spoilers about Oppenheimer, then you don't want to watch this video. But it's probably already too late. Okay, so yeah. And they had one really big, really like built up testing session of the bomb when it was basically already constructed at that point. And like that was it. We saw some like minor explosions, but those weren't like the real bomb. But we really truly only saw one, count it, one scene of it being actually detonated, and it was actually pretty disappointing, honestly. Like, there was a lot of build-up. They were like building it up and building up, and it was so tense, and then it exploded, and it was just kind of like, okay. So I mean, that was a missed opportunity. I guess part of it was that Chris Nolan didn't want to use a lot of CGI. I think he just used some kind of goddamn fire gun. I don't fucking know. I wasn't there. But yeah. So this movie could have been about these three things. There's, in movies, I don't know if y'all know this, but in movies there's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Okay? And so we could have had Act 1 being Oppenheimer advancing to make the bomb and then actually making the town in which the bomb was constructed. That could have been Act 1. We could have had Act 2 would have been actually making the bomb in said town. That would have been Act 2. And then Act 3 could have fucking been the bomb actually being used. Okay, but that's not how the act structure was utilized in this movie. But that's okay. By lack of action, I mean the vast majority of the movie was men talking in rooms, men sitting down, having conversations during hearings, talking in rooms. And like, action, people are confused about what action actually is, okay? Action isn't just, stage combat, people fighting and explosions and backflips. Okay, that's not action. Action can be someone getting up and walking to a different room. Action can be someone realizing something huge and then needing to make changes about it. And it doesn't have to include explosions or stage combat, okay? But yeah, so there was just very little actual physical action in this movie. It's a little bit, but not a lot. So there was so much going on. There was so much going on. So a lot of time was spent on the affair that Oppenheimer had with this woman whose name escapes me. I fucking forgot her name. Obviously, she was not memorable, though. Actually, she was memorable because she was so fucking cuckoo. But so this movie was featured. Let me tell you, it featured the affair that he had with this woman and his relationship with his wife. It featured the hearings that he and Strauss were a part of. It featured people being accused of communism, like Red Scare shit, and it featured yeah, I honestly did not care about Strauss. Robert Downey Jr.'s character. I didn't care about him. And it was also very confusing because it was not made clear at all why they were even in the hearings. I had to look that up later. Okay? When you have to like do fucking homework about a movie after the fact or before the fact, like that's no bueno. Okay? That's not what people go to the cinema for. Anyway, um so there was simultaneously too much and not enough going on because the hearings were really fucking boring. And I also just listed, I said that there were affairs, hearings accusing of communism, the dramatic shit that was happening with his wife, um, the constructing of the bomb. Like there was just so much going on. There was too much going on. It bothered me. Okay. Um, there also just wasn't enough focus on Oppenheimer's character arc. I felt like it was kind of there, but it seemed really half-assed. And maybe that was the point. But anyway, going on to my next point. I really, really hated the women characters. Honestly, they were pretty horrible. And I feel like most women should be rather offended by these characters because they were such shit. And I actually know for a fact that Nolan is capable of writing women characters better than this. Um, but the Florence Pugh character was just this totally cuckoo, like mentally ill woman. And it wasn't even really clear why Oppenheimer liked her. He would like keep returning to her to have sex with her, but like she was not a likable character. Um, he really wasn't that into her. Cillian Murphy and Florence Pugh's chemistry was like no bueno, let me tell you. It really was. It was bad, dude. And but that kept happening, that kept happening, and at one point, oh, the scenes with the nudity were like they were like pretty raunchy. There was nudity. Obviously, we saw Florence Pugh's breasts. I know some of you want to go see a movie for that, but no Cillian Murphy dick, so shoot. It's always what happens though. They always show the woman's like nakedness and they don't show the man's full nakedness. But anyway, she was not likable. And the wife, Oppenheimer's actual wife, was also very not likable. And they were so poorly written. So Florence Pugh's character was this mentally ill woman who really badly wanted to be with Oppenheimer, but by be with him, she really only wanted to have sex with him. And then Kitty, his wife, was this raging, angry alcoholic. And I didn't know this, but I looked it up again after the fact. And Kitty, Oppenheimer's real life wife, was actually a scientist. She wasn't a nuclear physicist. She was a botanist and some other kind of scientist. So, like, she was clearly very smart and educated, which was not super common for women in that era. But of course, that was just not ever mentioned at all in the entire movie. You really didn't think she was even a scientist. You thought she was just some random woman like perusing about her life with little to no direction. And it seemed like the only reason she stayed with Oppenheimer was because she got pregnant. But anyway, hated hated the female characters, hated them. The whole affair with Florence Pugh's character could have been omitted from the movie entirely. And it would have been that would have made the movie at least 4 or 5 minutes shorter. It's a 3-hour movie, but anyway. One time when they were doing one of the sex scenes, I turned to my friends and I was like, this looks really intrinsic to the building of an atomic bomb, because like it was just so gratuitous and gross. But I guess that's to be accepted. So one of my points here is I was rather annoyed by how little depiction they had of people questioning the ethics of creating an atomic bomb. It did happen a few times briefly, but I feel like it just would have happened more. Even if it didn't happen, it would have been really beneficial to have created an actual substantial scene where maybe Oppenheimer was explaining to his wife what the bomb actually was and how he was creating it and what it would do. And because she was a scientist, she would have been able to fucking understand what he was saying. And that would have been a cool scene. And she could have been like, is that a good idea? You know, or something along those lines. Of course we didn't get that though. Hold on. Yeah, so no one questioned the ethics of the bomb, which, I mean, is also a fair critique, right? Because a lot of Americans, look at Parrot, weren't critical of it. They trusted Oppenheimer. They trusted the American government. They didn't think that they would be up to anything, evil, which the atomic bomb is in fact evil. I was going to start with something completely different, and of course, being me, I forgot. I'm just going to say this now. Well, am I going to say this now? So, for me, when it comes to any movie, I can tell if I'm going to like the movie or if it's a good movie, because there are plenty of movies that are good movies, but I don't personally like them. I can tell if I'm going to like the movie within the first 10 seconds. I am not kidding you. It takes 10 whole seconds for me to see whether or not I'm going to like a movie. And the first 10 seconds of this movie, we got a quote that was on, a quote was put on the screen, and I didn't like the delivery. I thought the delivery of the words on the screen were off. So, what does that tell you? I feel like there were just a lot of missed opportunities. Like, there could have been a scene where people were protesting the bomb. There could have been a scene where either Oppenheimer saw people protesting the bomb on a television or something, or he could have actually physically seen them. However, I don't know if people were even that clued in to the construction of the bomb at the time. I don't know if people knew that, and I don't know if they protested. I did see that there were actually a ton of organized protests, organized by women, that happened in 1961 in the U.S., in over 30 cities to protest atomic weapons. But this movie takes place before 1961. I just thought that could have been a cool character arc. We're going to get back to his character arc later. Anyway, there were a lot of twos. T-O-O-S. Too much. That's how you spell two. There's too much talking, not enough action, no visual representation of chemical reactions happening in the bomb, nothing like that. There were too many characters. There were too many fucking characters. Let me just tell you this. I'm gonna read a bunch of fucking people that were in there, okay? Kenneth Branagh, Cillian Murphy, Josh Hartnett, Matt Damon, Josh Peck, Gary Oldman, Robert Downey Jr., Dane DeHaan, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh. That's too many people. Okay? Sorry. And a lot of these people, like Dane DeHaan and whoever the fuck else, they had like very bit parts. Oh, fucking Casey Affleck was in this movie. He had a bit part. He was in literally one scene. But like Dane DeHaan, I don't think his character spoke for like over an hour into the movie, but we saw him just like standing there, like doing nothing but like watching shit. Anyway, too many fucking people. There was too much going on. There was the bomb. There was Oppenheimer's life. There was his affairs. There was his hearing. There was the Red Scare. The war times were not made clear. The Strauss hearing, and like I said before, Oppenheimer and Strauss's hearings were not. It was not clear what the fuck was going on in the movie. I guess people who knew this whole story, who experienced it, might have a better grasp on what was going on, but I wasn't there, so I didn't fucking know what the hell was going on. Okay. So, there were some technical issues that annoyed me. And by technical issues, I'm saying like, let me just say what they were. Okay. So I felt like the sound mixing was off at the very beginning of the movie in the first fucking scene. I felt like it was off, honestly. I don't know if y'all know this, but the movie Tenet that Nolan made, like the sound mixing was off for the entire movie. And people were having a hard time hearing the voices in the movie because the sound mixing was off. I don't know how you can make a mistake like that when you're so experienced like Nolan, but it happened, and luckily for this one, it was only in the first scene, so it didn't carry out through the whole movie. This was not a visual or auditory feast for my eyes. This felt like a really long, really boring documentary about something that was actually interesting. Like, there was just so much potential here, and I felt like it was just entirely missed. I really didn't find the movie super visually stunning, and it's not even just the I don't even just mean like the action or like the scenery. I mean like the shot composition, like who and what is in the shot composition. Like right now, y'all see my grandmother clock, y'all see my piano. That is actually my hula hoop. Here's my beautiful couch. You could probably hear my cat. He was up there earlier. This is the shot composition. Okay, I ain't Nolan, so it's not as awesome as it could be, but yeah, there were so many parts in Dunkirk where you were just like looking at the screen and you were like, wow, like your jaw would just drop because of these visual spectacles that were presented in Dunkirk. Didn't feel literally any during Oppenheimer. Like not any, not even one. I was never like, wow, that's so beautiful. I was just like, okay, the whole time, the entire movie. Wish I wasn't, but I was. However, okay, I did enjoy the fact that in a recurring scene in one of his classrooms, there was a really ornate piano in the background, so that was cool. And then also during Oppenheimer's hearing, there was a cool like filing cabinet against one of the walls, and that's also kind of indicating to you how boring the movie was because I was focusing more on the objects in the background than I was on the actual dialogue and scenes that were happening. So, lol. I felt like the pacing of this movie was really off too. Like I felt like it was very, very rushed at a lot of points. Like I felt like there were points where they were getting at a profound thing. They were getting at a profound like subject, but then they would just like cut to the next scene. And I was like, Okay. Um, I thought that the like visually what could have been really interesting and what they could have done more with and what they probably did more with, but it was likely deleted, was this town. I wasn't aware of this until I saw this movie, but when they were constructing the first atomic bombs, the United States government actually made like a little town for the scientists and all their families. It was kind of like a military base, but it wasn't a military base because it was like a nuclear weapon base. But like that alone is so interesting, and we barely saw the town. Barely saw it in the whole movie. Um, so that was another missed opportunity. Again, we also barely fucking saw the bomb. Barely saw it. Let me tell y'all something, and that is the fact that I love being fucked up from movies. I love being disturbed. I love when they're disturbing. I love when I can't stop thinking about them for like a week. Pirate, you are gonna ruin my shot. Please don't do that. It's a precarious position again, and of course he's fucking with my setup. Pirate, just, you can be there, just don't, please don't mess with things. Please don't do it. This movie was not disturbing to me. I guess it was disturbing to me in that it was so boring, but like, I felt like there could have been more done with how inherently disturbing the creation of atomic weapons is. And it just really wasn't done. Yeah, we barely saw the bomb. So that was like, I guess that was sort of the point though, because Americans did in fact really barely see the bomb. Like, yeah, they saw footage after the fact, or yeah, they might have seen like some test footage, but they didn't see the real thing. Right? Um, there's this movie called Barefoot Jen. It's on YouTube, as far as I'm aware. And it's by a guy who actually experienced the bombing of Hiroshima as a child. And it's animated. So it's, obviously very different from a live action movie, but this movie fucked me up. And I still think about it. Okay? It's very disturbing. It's really interesting, though, to see what the bomb did to people. And obviously we ain't Japan. Obviously we did physically experience a bomb. Because we did physically test the bomb in New Mexico. But it didn't kill people, obviously, the way that it did in Japan, in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But, like, I just felt like that was not even really touched on. And I felt like it's kind of a cop-out. I mean, this is like a biopic about the guy who created the bomb. And the fact of the matter is that he obviously didn't experience it like someone in Hiroshima. He didn't even experience it like the airplanes, the American military who dropped these bombs, right? He experienced it from the creator's perspective, which I guess is what this movie is all about, but still could have been way better. The next point is I honestly think that this is Christopher Nolan's worst movie yet. I really do. And why don't we go back to my 5 points of what makes a movie good? Which is number 1, we want to see the main character succeed, and number 2, we want to enjoy the ride. watching the main character succeed. And number three, there's a satisfying character arc. And number four is that it's an audible and visual feast. And number five is that it's a worthwhile communal experience for the moviegoers. Um, it was not number four. It was not an audible and visual feast. Um, the inclusion of Oppenheimer's affair with this mentally ill woman played by Florence Pugh was established basically immediately in the movie, and that made him very unlikable. That might have been the point of doing that, but I didn't really care about him that much. I didn't really care about his character that much. I feel like his character wasn't even, it was fleshed out, and it was kind of, there was in fact, building up of his character, and they were trying to show him. They showed him when he was like in university and becoming an instructor and then becoming a scientist, but they made little to no effort to de-age him in any way. um I don't know why you would do that, given that, Nolan has such a budget for literally any of his movies. He just like they did it with Indiana Jones. They made him look 45 when he's 80. It does kind of look off, but like Cillian Murphy was literally like 47, in like a lab, like doing lab work as an undergrad. And it's like, bro, really? Um, and the fact that the pacing was off and the dialogue was also shitty, um, I really felt like we kind of just barely, if at all, got to see these actors shine. You want to see them shine. You want to see them shining. You want to see them in their element doing their thing. And, I actually said to Terry, because I saw this with Terry, when we were waiting in line to get our tickets, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to cry. And she was like, you cry a lot at movies. And it is, in fact, true. I do. But I wanted to cry, and I did not. Because there was quite literally nothing to cry about. I was getting pretty antsy there because I was really hungry and getting tired. And this movie was boring as fuck. And it was 3 hours long. So that was rough. I feel like I was saying something. Yeah, the pacing was so off that there were, in fact, a few profound moments when you saw some, like, really significant conversations that Oppenheimer was having. But I feel like those are so few and far between. And even when they did happen, like, they were just not really working. They just, like, barely worked. Or they, like, kind of worked, but not really. And it was just like, that's what I mean about it being, everyone was just kind of like, okay. Which leads to my next point, was that it wasn't really a super worthwhile communal experience. It was. Okay, but I'm different in that I would rather see a fucking horrible movie that is so bad I would rather walk out of it than not see a movie at all. Um, but I just felt like it could have been a better experience. It could have been a better ride, and it just like wasn't. Yeah, didn't get to see the actors shine. There was shit dialogue, shit action. This next one is pretty important, which is that I feel like it's not very rewatchable. People rewatch. I know so many people, including me, who will watch Dark Knight again and again and again. They want to see it again. They'll watch it again and again and again, and it's still exciting every time. Or they'll like, I do it. I do so. But what I do is I'll watch Batman Begins, and then I'll watch Dark Knight, and then I'll watch Dark Knight Rises, and then I'll even do that whole thing over again. Because I love them so much, and they're so much fun to watch. They're action packed, you know, and people love watching them again and again and again. And I just know for a fact that Oppenheimer does not have that appeal. No one's gonna. I don't really think very many people are gonna rewatch it. Um, it was way too fucking long. I think I might have said that already. This movie was 3 hours. Okay? And I looked up some other very long movies that I love, which are Titanic and the Avatar movies, that are all of those, actually, except for the first Avatar. The first Avatar is just under 3 hours. It's 2 hours, 58 minutes. And Titanic is 3 hours, 15 minutes long. And our Avatar 2 is 3 hours, 12 minutes long. Don't care. Love them. Love them the whole time. They're great fun to watch. I like when I saw them in the theaters, I like, you know, felt bad about going to the bathroom because there was just so much action constantly happening that like you're gonna miss something cool no matter when you go to the bathroom, you know. Didn't feel that way during Oppenheimer, like at all, because it was boring as fuck. Okay, so I don't want to just say, oh, I hated it, I hated it, I hated it, I hated it, it was horrible, because obviously there was a lot of effort put into this movie. And I don't want to just say that it all sucked, because it didn't all suck. I mean, it was good, right? It was a really good effort, and it was a really good attempt at a cool movie that I personally just thought fell short. I like that Christopher Nolan made this movie. I'm pretty sure it's his first biopic. I don't think he's made a biopic before. So it was, you know, I enjoyed that he was trying to make something different for him. So good for him. Oh, I have to say this. The theater I saw this with, it wasn't super crowded, but it wasn't not crowded, okay? There were at least probably 30 to 50 people in the theater, okay? We saw it in the daytime, too, so there weren't as many people as there could have been, but 30 to 50 people there, okay? Literally no one laughed at any of the jokes. Zero laughs. Zero laughs during the whole movie, okay? I read another review of this movie, and there was this one part where a character was imagining Oppenheimer. It was Kitty. I'm pretty sure it was Kitty. I think. It doesn't matter. It was supposed to be that a character was imagining Oppenheimer having sex with mentally ill Florence Pugh's character. Florence Pugh's not mentally ill, her character was in the movie. But it happened during his hearing. So he was just like suddenly naked in the courtroom, like being sexual with her. And in this other review I read, some people said, the author said that people laughed. People just laughed. They were like, the fuck? Like, but no one laughed when it happened with me, but everyone, I could tell that everyone was like, what the fuck? And honestly, I don't think I've told y'all this, but I seriously write notes whenever I go to see a movie. That's what I'm doing. I know that's annoying probably to other people, but like, that's what I'm doing. I had not been able to stop doing that since I had to write movie reviews for a website that exploited me for my labor. But like, that's just something I do. And I wrote down in my notes for Oppenheimer, I wrote down the fuck 12 times. Because there was some weird shit, some useless shit, some confusing shit, some obnoxious shit on the screen that many times to me. That's just how I feel. But like I said, I would rather see a movie I dislike than not see a movie at all. Okay, so another thing I liked about this movie was that it actually did get me to contemplate what depicting events like the creation of the atom bomb does for us as a society. Like, what does that do for us? You know, like, how does that help us? How does that help us to process that action? How does that help us to understand our own actions and ourselves better? You know, and I say that even if people make a movie that's regarded as bad, if people are still talking about it, if people paid money to see it and they're talking about it and making a YouTube video like this one, well, then you've done your job and it's a success, even if some people hated it. So there's that. Yeah, I liked some of the furniture in the movie. I liked the piano, even though no one played it, obviously. There were quite a few horse scenes. I think there were more horse scenes than were necessary, but that's Masturbation Station. Like I've said in other videos, it's fun to shoot people riding horses, obviously. I something I did like about Emily Blunt's character, Kitty, Oppenheimer's wife, was that her speech was a lot like my grandma's. Like, I think out of all the actors in that entire movie, Emily Blunt was the only one who actually really studied, like, the cadence and speech patterns of people in the 40s. And she was speaking that way, and I thought that was very cool. So, good for her. This movie also got me to look up the actual events themselves. Like, I don't know all about this. I really don't. I know a little bit, but I don't know that much. So I wouldn't have looked up a lot of these things had it not been for this movie. Yeah, I didn't like it. That's all I'm gonna say. I didn't like it, but I saw it with Terry, and Terry loved it. And Terry was begging me to put in my review video that she does not endorse this message and she disagrees with me completely, and she thought it was a great movie and she really enjoyed it. And I've seen a lot of people in a lot of comments say that they also liked it. So I'm glad that it was at least somewhat positively received, and I'm glad I saw it even though I really disliked it. And I'm also just really glad that this movie came out on the same day as Barbie, because obviously we went to go see Barbie later in the day, and I really, really loved Barbie. Barbie was a really great palate cleanser compared to Oppenheimer. But I loved that it was like such an event, you know? It was such an event that Oppenheimer and Barbie came out in the same day, and people were like, I know I've seen one meme of Barbenheimer, I think people are calling it, and like I think that's really fun, and we wouldn't have the Barbenheimer meme were it not for Oppenheimer. So I thought there was too much talking in rooms. Too much superfluous scenes that really didn't matter, not enough explication on a lot of scenes that actually did matter, and a lot of action that actually did matter, like actually physically creating the bomb. I meant to say this when I was talking about the female characters, and that's that it's actually just better to have 0 female characters. And I mean that. Okay, that's an unpopular opinion. I'm really feminist or whatever the fuck, but like, I'm really feminist in other people's eyes. It's better to just not have female characters than have extremely shitty female characters. Like, just edit them out, like, please. One more thing I want to say about this, even though I already kind of mentioned it, is the fact that I did say it was not, for me personally, it was not an audible and visual feast. There was music in it, but I don't remember it the music in it was not memorable at all, and the music in like Inception is pretty memorable. The music in Batman is pretty memorable. Um, didn't didn't hear any memorable music in this one. Okay, I'm gonna look at your comments now, or consider it. Okay. Do you need an editor? Because I see your vids are unedited, and it would be cool if it's edited, and I can help with that if you want. Well, thanks, Lork Mix, but I don't know about that. Paul A. Oh, hey, who's you_you? Why would he have done that with the you're telling me he did that on purpose with Tenet? You_you. You probably said that like 40 minutes ago. Why did he do that? Why was that? Did he explain that stylistic choice? See, this is what I also don't like about live streams, is I don't like waiting for people's answers. And I just have to like kick it, and there's also like a delay from when I get the chats to when the chats are actually showing up, or when the person actually sends the chat, the message. Okay. Any opinion on the casting of Killian rather than a Jewish actor? Saw there was a lot of discussion about it. Okay, thank you, Nicholas O'Gorman. That's a great question, because I said that was one of the first things I wrote on my notes, which is Cillian Murphy ain't Jewish. He's cute, but he ain't Jewish. I actually looked up Oppenheimer, though, and they somewhat looked alike. A little bit. The problem there, though, is, this is just an ongoing problem, and it really, really bothers me in all seriousness, is that studios don't want to cast an actor they don't know for a fact is going to be marketable, and they knew for a fact that Cillian Murphy was going to be marketable, and I also know for a fact that Nolan and Cillian are friends, and I'm sure that, Nolan was really wanting to make a movie in which Cillian would have been the lead, so obviously he casted him for Oppenheimer for that reason, but yeah, he's not Jewish, and Oppenheimer was Jewish, so it would have been better to have casted a Jewish person, in my opinion, yes. But the marketing is the reason that they didn't do that. Also, I was gonna say something else. What was I gonna say about that? Oh, I was gonna say I've seen the fucking trailer for the Napoleon movie that Apple Studios is coming out with, and it looks so dope. But this makes me really mad because everyone fucking knows that Napoleon was really short. He was short for a man. I looked it up. He wasn't that short. He was my height. Okay, he was 5'6", which I feel like that was short at the time, but people also didn't have as good of nutrition. But like, they casted Joaquin Phoenix, who's like 5'11". Like, and the production value for that movie is just through the goddamn roof. So if they had cast someone who was actually short, then they don't even need to worry about getting a bankable actor, is my point. When you have a fucking production value that is that high, don't even worry about it, dog. Cast whoever the fuck you want. Honestly, I am really tired of seeing the same actors. Do you know how fucking tired I am of seeing Zendaya? She's really talented and she's very beautiful, but I feel like she's in every fucking movie and show that I've ever seen. Same with Tom Holland. I've seen Cillian Murphy in a lot of shit, and I've sure as shit seen Joaquin Phoenix in a lot of shit. So, like, why aren't we casting some new faces for a little bit of variation? Yeah, Napoleon looks really cool, even though I wish they had not cast Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon. Hi, Paul A. Thanks for watching from down under. Hope to visit Australia one day. If y'all aren't gonna say hello, do you have any questions about Oppenheimer that I can answer? Because if y'all aren't gonna say a lot more, I'm just gonna go. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'll wait for some questions, and then if there aren't any questions or comments about Oppenheimer, if there aren't any, then I'm gonna go. I can actually share my notes with you. Hold on. I was gonna say this too, but I forgot. And that's that check, it's okay. Okay, what I was gonna say was I am not your average moviegoer. I'm your very rare moviegoer. Like, I know about all the technical shit. I get annoyed about things like shaky camera work, and there was shaky camera work at the beginning of Oppenheimer. Bruh. I don't know why that would have been, but there was, and I was shocked, and that's embarrassing, and that's something that Nolan should really know better than to do, but it's okay. Sometimes it actually works, though. Sometimes shaky camera work works because it's like if there's like, a big like struggle and people are like gathering around or something, or they're like there's a lot of movement, like it kind of does make sense to have like shaky camera work like this, but it's like I just think it's obnoxious in all seriousness. Okay, did y'all say anything else? No. Yeah, I can show you one thing that annoyed me. Here we go. There was like a shot that looked like this. It was like all crowded because there was the tent here, there was Killian here, there was another actor here, that horse was right behind them, which was like cool, good shot composition, but I felt like it was crowded. I was like, this is how you should have done it. Spread it out just a little bit. But I don't know what the location was. Maybe it wasn't possible where they were, because they were actually like outside, so probably wasn't possible. Okay, I think that y'all are done talking. I think that I'm done talking, so thank you so much for watching. And maybe I will review Barbie tomorrow. Bye! Who's here? I know you're here, Paul, but you're not saying anything interesting. So I want to go. See, this is what I don't. Okay, he will talk. Okay, well, we'll see. This is what I don't like about live streams, is that we have this kind of downtime and this kind of confusion. I did purposely do this at this hour because I knew that a lot of people wouldn't show up. So that was intentional on my part, even though I already said bye. Okay, well, we're all waiting, Paul. Go ahead. Okay, do you want to say anything else? That's good. Good for you. Oh, I guess another thing I can say is that what I did like about Oppenheimer is that, like, I have never been this organized with my notes. I really put in more effort with this one to, like, actually write down what I wanted to cover and do it in a more orderly fashion, because I tend to fucking pinball everywhere. So, I mean, Oppenheimer inspired me to do that, so, that's nice. Yeah, you're still not saying anything interesting, Paul A. I'm glad you like my videos. Thank you.